Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
Sunny stops by Alexa's office, having heard that her defense strategy to free Willow is to point the cutlet at Michael. Sunny says he can help her by pointing her to a suspect that is Aunt Michael, and suggests she look at Portia Robinson. Alexis tells him she needs a reason to go after a reputed croaker like Portia. Sunny informs her that Portia worked with Nina to frame Drew for doing ketamine and hiring a companion, so she should start by asking where Portia was the night Drew was shot. What does Sidwell want from Laura? In Laura's office, Sidwell tells her that by working together, they can make Port Charles a better place. Laura says he can do that by leaving city. Laura knows he only wants Sunny's peers for his felonious enterprise, and she'll no way work with him or be his ally. Sidwell leaves, but before doing so, tells Laura that everyone has their price, indeed her. How long can Portia keep her secret? At the sanitarium, Portia reflections to Elizabeth that she had to confess the verity to Curtis, thanks to Jordan's hindrance in her life, but she doesn't know how much longer she can keep the fact that he may not be the father from him. Liz tells her that she doesn't need the stress, which Portia knows. Now that Britt is back, she expects Brad to return as well. Liz brings up the conflict between her and Brad last spring, and if he were to return, would it be a problem for her? Portia says Brad has been dealt with, but she can't help but wonder what her life would be like without so important outside hindrance. On that note, she has commodity to attend to and rushes out. Are Curtis and Jordan getting back together? Curtis stops by Jordan's place and lets her know she was right, and Portia is pregnant. He says she's keeping the baby, and they're staying till after the first trimester to tell anyone, but however she should know. She congratulates him and assumes he and Portia are making effects work. Curtis says the baby won't fix their problems. Curtis wants to be a loving and present father to this baby, but he also wants her reverse. She wants him too, but worries he'll change his mind, and she can't go through losing him again. Curtis swears he won't give up on her now that they've an alternate chance. Emma crosses a line. In Dalton's office, Emma is shocked to learn Britt is working with Dalton, and she tells him that he can't give the sickie access to his lab, as she'll betray him. Britt says Emma is the unsafe one to keep around, as she thinks she knows everything, and suggests Dalton Warhorse his exploration sidekicks more completely in the future. Britt takes off, and Dalton scolds Emma and tells her she's no way to affront Dr. Westbourne again, and he won't tolerate her rebellion. He doesn't need her moment and orders her out. Britt returns to work at the sanitarium, and Liz asks her if she's heard from Brad. Britt says he's supposedly off the grid, and if he knows she's alive and back, also he doesn't care. Liz says Brad came into Plutocrat when he left city and wanted a fresh launch, and maybe he doesn't indeed know she's back. Where there's a will, there's a way. At Lulu's, Tracy finds a dupe of Monica's will in the boxes of things and reads a note that indicates Monica left a dupe for Tracy in case Drew tried to pull a fast bone. Tracy takes off with the will and says, "Buckle up, Ronnie, I'm coming for you." Latterly, Emma meets Gio at Lulu's and tells him she couldn't get Dalton's crucial fob, but she knows who can. They move Rocco to adopt the crucial fob from Britt, and say he'd be saving Britt from going down with Dalton. He agrees to help and asks them to stay then to hand out delicacy to any trick-or-treaters. Rocco takes off, and Emma asks what's with all these boxes. Gio says Tracy is staying then, and he feels bad for her losing her house. Emma says that the house is his too. The jig is up for Ronnie and Martin. At the Quartermaine estate, Ronnie pauses before subscribing the papers. That's when Outback rushes by, abductions them, and takes off with. Brooke, Lynn and Chase arrive, having heard the commotion over the canine stealing the contract. Cody walks in, asking where his canine is, and is followed by Olivia and Ned, who have also come to see what all the commotion is about. Cody takes off to find Hinterland, and Ned suggests they return hereafter with a new PUCA document to subscribe. Still, Drew insists he's taking power of this house moment and will be the head of the Quartermaine family. Ned tells Drew he doesn't decide he's family, they do, and Edward would have been the first to disown him. Cody soon returns with the papers, and Drew says, for formerly, Cody is right on time. Drew orders Ronnie to subscribe on the dotted line, and also she can be done with all of them in this house. Suddenly, Tracy bursts in and declares the trade of the house is null and void, and she has Monica's real will. Ronnie comes clean. Michael and Olivia tell Tracy that Ronnie didn't subscribe the contract, and she ripped it up. Ned asks what the deal is with Monica's real will. Tracy reveals she set up it in a box with a letter from Monica. Drew and Martin attempt to claim that the will is obviously a fake, but Michael counters that it's inked. Ronnie eventually admits that the will leaving her the house was forged, but not by her, it was forged by Martin. Everyone gapes at Martin, and Tracy smiles from observance to ear. Ronnie explains Martin communicated her, claiming to be Monica's friend, and had a plan to make sure the estate would go to someone good of it. She no way planned to go on with Martin's scheme until Tracy was terribly cruel to her when she was trying to say farewell to Monica. Ronnie says it was vengeance, pure and simple, which Tracy merited, but it was deceived and wrong of her. She knows Monica loved them all, which is why she couldn't take their home from them. She's glad Monica's wishes will eventually be recognized. Ronnie continues to reveal that she also went on with Martin's plan as he was blackmailing her, and if she didn't bend to Drew, he'd charge her with fraud. Tracy wants Chase to arrest Drew, Martin, and Ronnie. Drew insists he wasn't involved in this, which Ronnie confirms. Is anyone going to jail? Drew tells Martin they aren't done then and storms out, but the family won't let Martin leave. Tracy wants Chase to handcuff Martin and Ronnie, but the family comes to Ronnie's defense for coming clean. Tracy still wants Martin cuffed and vows that when she's done with him, he'll be in big boy captivity this time, not some original county jail. Chase puts the bond on Martin, but Ned stops him from dragging him off to jail, saying he has a better idea. In the show's final moments. At the sanitarium, Britt's alarm goes off, and she steps down and heads into a room with her meds as Rocco watches. He's about to open the door to the room just as Britt's about to fit herself. Alexis tells Sonny that she'll look into Portia, but won't make him any pledges about her defense. Suddenly, Drew walks in yelling, "I want Michael buried up to his neck." When he sees Sonny there, he asks, "What the hell is this?" Jordan suggests to Curtis that they take this slow and stay until his divorce is perfected, and Curtis agrees. He goes to leave, and at her door, she doesn't want to stay for one thing. She kisses him, and Portia arrives just in time to see. At Lulu's, Gio eventually sees that he's a Quartermaine and that the house is part of his history. Laura calls Anna and asks her to call her, as they need to talk about Jens. That's when Martin walks in, and she can tell Commodity is wrong. He explains he has set up himself in a tragic situation. At the QS place, Olivia says, "Leave it to Monica to suspect there would be funny business with her will." Ronnie is sorry for everything, and Tracy is just glad Michael has his inheritance. Michael is reading the will, which Tracy didn't get a chance to do, and says grandmother didn't leave him the house, she left it to Tracy. Tracy is astounded. The hallowed, tension-filled halls of General Hospital have always been a stage for the dramatic interplay of life's most pivotal moments: birth, death, love, and betrayal. Rarely, however, do these elements converge with the explosive synchronicity currently gripping Port Charles. A sacred ceremony meant to symbolize new beginnings, the baptism of baby Wiley Corinthos, has become the unlikely epicenter for a financial and familial earthquake that is set to redefine the city's most powerful dynasty, the Quartermaines. This is not merely a storyline, it is a reckoning, a meticulously laid trap springing shut, where encouraging words of faith are drowned out by the angry threats of the disinherited, and where the discovery of a single document, the real last will and testament of the late, great Edward Quartermaine, unveils a new monarch for the kingdom's most coveted castle. Part 1, a sacred stage for secular warfare, the baptism as a pressure cooker. The decision to baptize Wiley was, on its surface, an act of pure love and tradition. Brooklyn Quartermaine and Harrison Chase, alongside the child's parents, Michael Corinthos and Willow Tate, envisioned a day of unity, blessing, and hope. The church, a sanctuary meant for peace, was instead transformed into a pressure cooker of simmering animosities and unspoken anxieties. The guest list alone was a recipe for disaster, forcing bitter rivals and wounded souls into uncomfortably close pews. The encouraging words of the episode were not merely scriptural recitations, they were layered with double meaning and desperate hope. Willow's prayers for Wiley's protection felt like a direct plea against the unseen forces circling her family. Michael's stoic demeanor was a shield against the business pressures he faced. Chase and Brooklyn's supportive whispers to each other were a testament to their bond, a small life raft in the churning Quartermaine sea. The officiant's homily about being cleansed of the past and reborn into a new life echoed with an irony that would soon become painfully clear. These moments of genuine affection and faith provided a fragile, beautiful veneer over the fissures about to crack open. Simultaneously, the angry threats were not yet shouted but hissed in undertones. Tracy Quartermaine, ever the matriarch in exile, likely exchanged barbs with Ned, her son, whose own identity crisis as Eddie Main had only recently resolved, leaving him hungry to reclaim his place and power within the family empire. The ever-scheming Valentine Cassadine, now seemingly legitimized through his relationship with Anna Devane but never truly free of his ambitions, watched the proceedings with a calculating eye, understanding that any shift in the Quartermaine foundation was an opportunity for a Cassadine. Even Drew Kane's presence was a reminder of the corporate battle for ELQ, a company he once helped lead. The air was thick with unspoken questions about legacy, entitlement, and the ticking clock waiting to sound the hour of Edward's final judgment. Part 2, The Ghost in the Machine, The Discovery of the Real Will. For months, if not years, the Quartermaine family has operated under the provisions of a will that, while legally sound, never quite felt like Edward's true, final word. The late patriarch was a man of immense passion, colossal grudges, and a surprising, often hidden, sentimental streak. The existing will reflected the lawyer, not the man. Its discovery was the first tremor, the event that set the entire sequence in motion. The mechanism of the discovery is classic Quartermaine drama. It was not found in a lawyer's vault or a safe deposit box. Instead, it was uncovered in a place profoundly personal to Edward, perhaps tucked within the pages of a first-edition book in his old study at the mansion, or hidden inside the dusty case of a model ship, a hobby he shared with a cherished, less opportunistic relative. The finder was likely someone outside the immediate circle of power, maybe Laura Collins, acting in her capacity as mayor and helping to inventory a historical property, or even a remorseful Tracy, finally piecing together her father's cryptic final clues. The location itself is a message. Edward wanted this found by someone who would understand its context, not just its content. The contents of the real will are a deliberate and brutal dismantling of the status quo. Edward Quartermaine, from beyond the grave, has orchestrated his final, masterful business deal and his most profound act of familial manipulation. The document undoubtedly strips certain entitled members of significant assets, redirecting wealth and power in a way that rewards those he felt were overlooked and punishes those he believed had grown lazy, greedy, or had betrayed the family name. This is not a dry legal document, it is a character assassination, a love letter, and a declaration of war, all bound in leather. The discovery sends a shockwave through the family, turning the baptism from a spiritual event into the strategic location where the news begins to leak, where alliances are tested, and where the first true angry threats are vocalized for all to hear. Part 3, The Crown Jewel, The Identity of the New Owner Revealed. This is the climax, the revelation that sends every other plot point spiraling into chaos. The Quartermaine mansion is not just a house, it is a symbol. It represents the family's wealth, their history, their resilience, and their dysfunction. It is the physical manifestation of their empire. To control the mansion is to hold a powerful psychological advantage. The revelation of its new owner is the narrative bomb that detonates at the worst possible moment, likely just as the baptismal water is drying on Wiley's forehead. The identity of the new owner is the core of the spoiler, and it is a choice designed to create maximum dramatic impact. Let us explore the most compelling possibilities and their ramifications. Scenario A, the outsider redeemed, Tracy Quartermaine. For decades, Tracy was the brilliant, sharp-tongued daughter who felt perpetually undervalued by her father. Their relationship was a complex ballet of mutual respect, fierce competition, and unspoken love. Leaving the mansion to Tracy would be Edward's ultimate act of posthumous apology and recognition. It would be him finally acknowledging that her intelligence and ferocity, not the more conventional attributes of her brothers, were the traits that most mirrored his own. The fallout would be spectacular. Tracy, now in undisputed control of the family seat, would wield her power with gleeful ruthlessness. She would immediately evict any residents she deemed unworthy, with Valentine likely at the top of her list. Her angry threats would no longer be empty, they would be eviction notices. Her encouragement to those she favored, like Brooke Lynn, would be backed by the full weight of the Quartermaine legacy. This outcome would reposition Tracy as the undisputed matriarch, setting up a power struggle with Michael and Drew over ELQ, with the mansion as her ultimate bargaining chip and fortress. Scenario B, the wild card, Brooke Lynn Quartermaine and Harrison Chase. This would be the most sentimental and destabilizing choice. Edward always had a soft spot for his grandchildren, and Brooke Lynn, despite her past schemes, has shown tremendous growth. By leaving the mansion to her and Chase, Edward would be making a profound statement about the future. He would be betting on love, integrity, and a new generation to steward the family name, bypassing the jaded, battle-scarred generation in between. The angry threats in this scenario would be volcanic. Ned, having just reclaimed his identity, would feel utterly betrayed by his own daughter. Tracy would see it as an insult, the house going to a child and a former PI not of Quartermaine blood. The encouraging words would come from the young couple themselves, vowing to turn the mansion from a den of intrigue into a true home. They would face unrelenting pressure, sabotage, and legal challenges from every other family member, forcing Chase and Brooke Lynn to fight a war on all fronts to claim their unexpected inheritance. Scenario C, the nuclear option, a surprise heir, e.g., Jason Morgan's son, Danny. This is the long game, legacy-altering twist. What if Edward, in his final days, was consumed with guilt over his treatment of his black sheep son, A.J. Quartermaine? To atone, he could have decided that A.J.'s line, specifically, his grandson Danny, the son of the late Jason Morgan, should be the one to carry the torch. This would be a move so shocking it would leave the entire family speechless. The new owner would be a young man who has grown up largely outside the Quartermaine orbit, now handed the keys to the kingdom. The practical control would likely fall to Danny's mother, Sam McCall, and her husband, Dante Falconeri. This would instantly make Sam one of the most powerful figures in Port Charles, a position she never sought. The angry threats would be apocalyptic. It would be seen as the ultimate betrayal, handing their birthright to a descendant who doesn't even bear the Quartermaine name in the public eye. The encouraging words would be from Sam and Dante, promising to protect Danny's interests and create a stable environment for him, even as the wolves circle. This revelation would not just change the ownership of a house, it would redefine the very bloodline the Quartermaines hold sacred. Part 4, the aftermath, lines drawn in the sand of the mansion's foyer. The baptism ends not with a hymn, but with a cacophony of shouting, accusations, and tearful confrontations. The encouraging words of the morning are forgotten, replaced by the raw, unfiltered language of greed, betrayal, and shock. Ned's rage, having sacrificed so much for the family, only to be cast aside in the final hour, Ned's anger would be a terrifying force. His threats would be corporate, personal, and relentless. He would likely lead the charge to contest the will, pouring his vast resources into proving his father was not of sound mind. Michael's calculated response, Michael, though secure in his position at ELQ, would see the mansion's loss as a symbolic blow. His encouragement would be to his immediate family, Willow, Wiley, and Drew, urging a unified, strategic front. He would play the long game, using business leverage to try and force the new owner's hand. Valentine's opportunism, Valentine would see the chaos not as a tragedy, but as a fire sale. He would likely approach the new owner, whoever they may be, with a sympathetic ear and a generous offer to buy the property, attempting to finally plant the Cassadine flag on Quartermaine soil. His threats would be veiled in polite language and financial intimidation. The new owner's resolve, the chosen heir, whether Tracy, Brooke Lynn, or Sam, would find themselves in a fortress under siege. Their first act would be one of self-preservation. They would give encouraging speeches to their allies, promising to honor Edward's wishes and stand their ground. Their threats would be defensive, changing the locks, securing legal injunctions, and preparing for a war of attrition. Conclusion, a legacy reforged in fire. The confluence of the baptism, the will, and the mansion's revelation is storytelling at its most potent. It uses a moment of intended purity to expose the rotten core of familial ambition. The encouraging words and angry threats are two sides of the same coin, both born from a desperate desire for love, security, and legacy. The discovery of the real will proves that Edward Quartermaine's influence did not end with his death. He remains the puppet master, forcing his family to confront their true selves. The baptism of Wiley represents the future, innocent, hopeful, and vulnerable. The battle for the mansion is the fight over what world that future will inherit. Will it be one of cutthroat competition and bitter grudges, or can a new generation, spurred by the seismic shock, build something different? The answer lies in the fallout. The ownership of the Quartermaine mansion is more than a deed, it is a statement of values. As the family fractures and reforms in the wake of Edward's final, devastating surprise, the very soul of the Quartermaine name is up for grabs. The baptism may have begun the day, but the war for the heart of a dynasty has just been declared.